Humans survive without souls, oxygen, or fear. I know this because I watched one breathe in a place where life itself refused to exist. My name is Thalor of the Zirian Observation Choir. My species records impossible events before destroying them. That is our sacred duty. We study anomalies. We remove threats. We never become part of the story. Then we discovered humans. Our first mistake was assuming they were fragile. Their bodies were soft. Their bones were weak. Their skin tore easily. Their minds were filled with strange emotions. They laughed during danger. They mourned the dead. They protected creatures that could not repay them. I concluded humans were defective. Every species in the galaxy survives by abandoning weakness. It is natural. It is intelligent. It is necessary. Humans did the opposite. When their exploration vessel crashed on the frozen moon of Keros 9, the crew had one damaged escape pod. There were 12 humans. Only 6 could fit. I expected the strongest to enter first. I was wrong. The strongest humans pushed the injured ones inside. At first, I believed this was a dominance ritual. The powerful humans were displaying superiority by pretending to sacrifice themselves. This was logical. This was the only explanation my mind could create. But then the remaining humans stood outside the pod and smiled. They were happy. I recorded this behavior as madness. The humans are going to die, and they looked peaceful. That was my first warning. I should have listened. 3 days later, my research fleet found the humans again. They had not died. They had built a shelter from broken ship parts. They had created heat using chemicals. They had hunted local predators with primitive tools. Primitive. That word became difficult for me. Humans had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Their senses were average. Their lifespan was short. Yet everything around them became a weapon. Metal became a blade. Fire became a shield. Stone became a machine. I assumed this was because humans lacked imagination and copied the universe around them. I was incorrect. The humans were not copying their environment. They were forcing the environment to obey. The galaxy feared the Varkan species because they had the strongest bodies. Their muscles could crush steel. Their armor could survive plasma storms. Humans had none of that, so I believe humans were harmless. This belief lasted until the first human soldier entered my observation chamber. He was smaller than a Varkan warrior. He carried no visible weapon. I calculated that he was a diplomat, a peaceful human. Another mistake. The human looked at me with calm eyes. His heart rate was stable. His breathing was slow. I thought he was unafraid. I wrote that humans did not understand danger. But later I learned something disturbing. Humans understand danger better than anyone. They simply continue anyway. The invasion of Keros 9 began 7 cycles after our first encounter. The enemy was the Thalor Dominion. They did not negotiate. They did not warn. They erased planets. Their ships covered the sky like a second night. Every species prepared to run. The Zirians prepared evacuation routes. The Varkan prepared their armies. The humans prepared something else. I believe they were preparing a surrender. Again, I misunderstood them. They were preparing a response. The human commander stood before thousands of soldiers and said very little. Humans often waste time with words, so I ignored him. I was more interested in their behavior. The soldiers looked afraid. Good. Fear creates survival. The humans would retreat. They would protect themselves. That was the pattern. Humans protect the weak. Humans sacrifice themselves. Humans do impossible things because they do not understand their limits. That was my conclusion. The battle began. The humans did not retreat. They moved forward. I marked this as a biological error. Their survival instincts were damaged. They should have escaped. Instead, they walked toward the enemy that had destroyed worlds. The Thalor laughed through their communication channels. They called humans animals. I agreed. Animals attack when trapped. Animals act without reason. Animals fight until death. But then the first Thalor warship disappeared. Then the second. Then the third. The humans had entered the battlefield with fewer ships, weaker weapons, and almost no chance of victory. Yet they were winning. I searched for the mistake. There had to be one. No species survives by doing what humans were doing. They were not fighting for territory. They were not fighting for resources. They were not fighting because they believed they could win. I finally discovered the truth. Humans were fighting because something behind them mattered more than their own survival. I found that impossible. Every creature values itself first. Every living thing protects its own existence. That is the first law of biology. The humans broke it, and then I saw something that changed my understanding forever. A damaged human soldier crawled across the battlefield toward a fallen enemy. I assumed he was finishing the kill. That was logical. That was expected. But he did not attack. He dragged the enemy pilot away from the fire. He saved him. Even after everything. Even after the destruction. Even after the war. I recorded this as another human contradiction. I believe humans were creatures of chaos. I believe they survived by accident. I believe their kindness was weakness. Then the injured human looked at the enemy he had saved. And I understood my final mistake. Humans were not surviving because they were stronger. They were surviving because they could become something far more dangerous. Something the galaxy had forgotten. Something even humans did not fully understand. They could lose everything and still choose to protect what remained. The human I watched save the enemy should have been the end of my confusion. Instead, it became the beginning of my fear. I studied the soldier for 12 hours after the battle. His body was damaged. His armor was broken. His internal systems were failing. Any other species would have entered survival shutdown. The body would preserve energy. The mind would focus only on itself. That was the rule. The rule that every living creature followed. Except humans. The soldier used his remaining strength to carry another being. A being that had tried to kill him. I calculated the action again and again. The result remained impossible. The human had reduced his own chance of survival to increase the chance of another. I labeled this behavior as a malfunction, a mistake in evolution. Then I found thousands of similar records. Humans rescuing strangers. Humans entering burning structures. Humans walking into storms. Humans returning to battlefields to recover the fallen. At first, I believed this was a weakness. Then I realized something far worse. It was a weapon. The Thalor Dominion learned this too late. They thought fear controlled humans. They destroyed human cities. They captured human colonies. They erased human history. They expected humans to surrender. They expected the pattern. Humans would protect their weak. Humans would sacrifice themselves. Humans would lose. But the Thalor misunderstood one thing. Humans do not break when they lose something. They change. I witnessed the transformation. The humans stopped asking for peace. They stopped asking for mercy. The same species that protected their enemies began building machines designed to end wars forever. I believed they had become monsters. I was almost correct, but I still did not understand. The galaxy prepared for human revenge. The other species feared what humans would do. I feared it too, because revenge is simple. Anger is predictable. But humans did something no species expected. They did not attack the Thalor homeworld. They attacked their weapons, their supply lines, their prisons, their control systems. They did not destroy the enemy. They removed the ability to continue fighting. I found this disturbing. Humans did not think like predators. Predators kill. Humans hunted possibilities. They did not ask, how do we win this battle? They asked something much more dangerous. How do we make sure this never happens again? That question changed the galaxy. The Thalor sent their greatest warrior to challenge the human commander. It was supposed to end the war. A display of strength. A final comparison. The Thalor warrior was enormous. His armor was grown from living crystal. His species evolved for combat. He had defeated hundreds. The human commander was old. His body was damaged. His hands shook. I calculated the outcome instantly. The Thalor would win. The universe agreed. The fight began. The Thalor attacked with impossible speed. The human fell. The Thalor attacked again. The human fell again. I recorded the result. Human defeat. The pattern was finally proven. Then the human stood up. I detected confusion in my own mind. His body was failing. His bones were damaged. His probability of victory was 0. Yet he stood. The Thalor attacked again. The human did not block. He did not dodge. He simply waited. The Thalor became aggressive. The human became calmer. This made no sense. Fear should increase under pressure. The human was doing the opposite. Then I discovered something terrifying. The human was not ignoring pain. He was using it. Every injury, every failure, every loss. The human remembered it, stored it, adapted. The Thalor was fighting the same battle again and again. The human was fighting every battle he had ever survived. That was when I understood the true danger of humans. They do not evolve between generations. They evolve during a single lifetime. The fight ended in silence. The Thalor warrior collapsed. The human remained standing. The galaxy celebrated. I did not, because I finally understood the pattern. Humans always look weak at first. They always appear fragile. They always appear close to extinction. That is not a weakness. That is their oldest strategy. They allow the universe to underestimate them. The final human record I recovered was not a military document. It was a message created before humanity entered the stars. The words were simple. Do not ask how many times we died. I did not understand. Not until I found the rest. Ask how many times we came back. My entire species studies survival. We measure strength. We calculate endurance. We predict victory. But humans are the only creatures I have encountered that can lose everything and still become more dangerous. I once believed humans survived because they were lucky. I was wrong. Luck ends. Strength fades. Bodies fail. But humans possess something far more frightening. A refusal. A refusal to accept the ending. Years later, I stood before the Galactic Council. They asked me the same question they asked every witness. How many enemies has the human species destroyed? I looked at my old recordings. I remembered the frozen moon, the escape pod, the battlefield, the wounded soldier saving his enemy. I finally understood why the humans never answered that question correctly. Because they were never counting the dead. They were counting the moments they should have died. And the impossible truth was this. Humans were not the species that survived without fear. They were the species that learned to carry fear forever and walk forward anyway. If you enjoyed this HFY Sci-Fi story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more epic tales of humanity among stars. The universe may fear humans, but it will never understand them.